Hey yo, I'm April. This is Alt Life Yoga. You've just stumbled upon about a 30-minute yoga video in which we're going to be open up the body and doing some breathing and some moving. It'll be great, and we're also going to do it to a really great soundtrack. Got a musical artist called Williamson that submitted some tracks for me to use for this video. It's probably a little bit more chill than what I usually use, but that's okay. We don't have to have metal all the time. All kinds of music is good music. And if you've got some really good music that you'd like me to use in my next video, then you should connect with me, comment, and reach out, email, whatever it is, man. I'd love to hear from you. So anyway, with Williamson being a slightly more mellow kind of music, I've decided to go with a slightly less strong practice and a little bit more flexible practice. I had one of my students ask me, hey, can we work on splits? Is that cool? And I'm like, yeah, man, I love working on splits. I'll tell you what, I had to work on splits for just about 20 years before I finally got it, even though I grew up as a dancer. It was just really hard for me to work into, and it was really definitely yoga that got me into a really good splits practice. So we'll do a couple of the exercises that I like to do to prepare myself to have really open legs and nice long splits, also called Hanumanasana in our yoga practice. I have a lot of people who say, no, I can't do splits. I was like, okay, well, that's fine that you can't do splits right now, right off the bat, or especially while you have a cold body, but don't you think that it's possible that you could? We have this thing where we really condition ourselves to have these snap, impulsive responses to things. And I'm reading a really interesting book right now by Malcolm Gladwell. It's called Blink, and it's about our snap, impulsive responses and about how reliable they are, except when they're not. And one of the ways in which our snap, reliable impulses are not super reliable One of the ways in which our snap impulse responses are not as reliable is when they're based on improper conditioning. So there's this word association test, and the word association test will measure the way that you associate, for example, men and career-oriented tasks and women and home-oriented tasks. And there's also a race version of the test where there's associations between African American good, white bad, or the reverse of that. And the way that people score on this test is almost completely regardless of how much they see themselves as being not racist individuals, of being very open-minded and welcoming to other races and other cultures. It has very much to do with conditioning. The author even admitted, he's like, I only scored moderately on this test, and I'm half black. So really, we exist in this culture in which we're being told certain things. And I'm not just talking about race. We're also being told certain things like, oh, human beings aren't supposed to bend that way. Most people just aren't that strong. I know you're a girl, you can't do this. You're a boy, you're not supposed to be that flexible. I know some really flexible dudes, man. I also know some really flexible, curvy ladies. Body composition, all of that kind of stuff, that's not a death sentence to your flexibility, to your strength, to your ability to do great things. So we're going to start off with a little bit of a meditation, because one of the really cool things about this chapter in the book that I'm talking about is that once people taking this race test retook it after looking at pictures of Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela and being reminded very clearly of examples in which the conditioning that they may usually be exposed to is incorrect, then they have fresh in their mind thoughts of goodness towards other races, towards abilities of people, and they did much better on the test. And it's all about snap impulse responses, but their snap impulse responses, their conditioning was that much influenced by the availability of positive information. So let's share some positive information with each other. Okay, but first, before we do this meditation, I want you to go ahead and do one thing for me. I want you to go ahead and grab either, if you have 2 yoga blocks or some sort of similarly sized thing. I'm grabbing a stack of books. So I've got my vegan cookbooks and a stack of children's books, Winnie the Pooh, Seuss, that kind of thing. So I've got a stack. They're about evenly spaced. We'll use those later. What I would like us to do now, though, after you go ahead and grab those books, is doing this meditation. I want you to try to find a comfortable seat, and we're going to go through some ideas of going beyond expectations and conditioning and seeing wonderful ideas of potential, so that we're prepared, that we have that in our mind before we go through into this practice, that we're not being clouded by the poor judgment of snap responses to things of, I don't know if I'm this flexible, I don't know if I'm this capable, I don't know if I'm this badass, because I'm telling you what, you are pretty badass. So find a comfortable seat. You can close your eyes if you like. I want you to think of a time when somebody you saw maybe on TV or at a sporting event did something with their bodies that was really impressive. Maybe they saved some major goal, or this gymnast in the Olympics did something you didn't think was possible according to the laws of physics. And then think of a time when you've seen a musician play something so beautifully you may have been brought to tears. Think of a time when you have had a complete stranger act in a measure of really, really awe-inspiring kindness and selflessness towards you or to someone else. Think of a time where you have done something that has exceeded your own expectations of kindness and compassion towards yourself or towards somebody else. Think of a time in which you have done something that was so incredible, when you've achieved a goal, maybe the first time you held plank for more than a breath, maybe the first time you did a push-up, or the first time you touched your toes. You can go way back with this. Think of times as kids when you did something that was exhilarating, a somersault, a cartwheel, nailing that job interview that terrified you. Take a few more moments. I want you to think of your own examples of exceeding expectations, of potential, of exploring possibilities, and the beautiful things that happen as a result.